Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of the Cricket Club podcast. Today, absolutely thrilled to welcome Zak Crawley onto the podcast along with myself and Chris. Zak, as you know, is the current England Test match opener and has a career that's in full swing. Started off in 2017 with his first class debut for Kent. 2 years later, only 2 years later, I said that quite flippantly, 2 years later, made his debut for England in Hamilton against New Zealand. Incidentally, ironically, where is his latest Test match in Hamilton just a few weeks ago in December. Zak, happy birthday for the other week. I know you just turned 27, so I hope you had a great birthday. Only 27, and obviously it's for us that know you. That seems old because it was 14, 15 years old when you first came along to the Vine. But welcome to the pod, mate. Thanks for coming on. Huge congratulations on the career so far. Tell us a little bit about the journey so far and aspirations for the next period.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting journey. You know, said to me, like you say, when I joined the Vine 15 years ago, you know, I'd have played one test for England. You know, I'd have played, you know, a number of times for Kent. You know, and one ODI for England. You know, I'd have snapped your hand off and taken all those things. You know, played one franchise game abroad. So yeah, it's an interesting journey where when you suddenly get to these places, you know, you always want a bit more. So and you know, I'm as hungry now as I was when I was 15 for more stuff to achieve more. And I think that's what all sportsmen are like. Really, you kind of strive for the next level, and yeah, it's always trying to get better. So that's pretty much the journey for me.
When you think back to 2017 and you know, we were talking actually before we started, Zak, about the beginning of the journey, and people would give their right arm for one game for their country, you know, whatever country they're in, India or Australia or New Zealand or Sri Lanka, anywhere. When you were at school, when you were playing in the Kent age group program, etc., did you let yourself believe that you would play for England one day? Did you believe that you would play 50 plus games for England and, you know, score hundreds and double hundreds? Were you one of those people that knew you were going to play, or did you just never think it was possible? Or what was your take on it?
Yeah, I never believed it, to be honest. It was always my goal, though. So if anyone ever asked me what I wanted to do, it was always to play for England, just one game or whatever. But it was always what I always said when people asked me that. It was just to play for England. And in my head, it was always just Test cricket. Obviously, now the times have changed and white ball cricket's so big as well. So, but no, it was always my goal, but I never believed it. And people always used to do those, you know, would you take one game? And I would always say yes, I'd take one game, absolutely. And now, even when I was 20 years old and I was, you know, going decently for Kent, and people would ask me, would you take one game? I'd say absolutely, I'd take one game. So, you know, like I said at the start, it's interesting how your mind changes on that, and you know, it's probably a better mindset to be in when I was back then, when you're actually taking it one game at a time, and it's you're not looking too far ahead.
Is there one moment in your career so far that stands out as kind of like the I've made it moment, or that actually sort of hit home? You know, I've spoke to a few people and it's their first Test match, or some people say it's my first, like my county debut, like that I played loads of Test cricket, but it was actually walking out at St Lawrence against Worcester in April, and I actually thought, geez, that's actually me now. So
it's a good question. Like, you know, I still don't ever think I've made it. Do you know what I mean? So it's a hard one for me to answer. So it's like, you know, because I always feel like I've got more to give. So you know, my goal has always been, you know, to like reach my potential. I've always said I want to finish my career and know that I've given it my best shot. and I couldn't have been any better than I was. And so I've never really had that feeling of made it. Even when I scored my first 100 for England, incredible feeling, like as the sum of all my thoughts as a kid was growing up was to score 100 for England. But even then it was like, well, I've got to get it, you got to do it again. You don't want to be like one hit wonder. And like when I was almost playing for Kent, all I wanted to do was play for Kent. And when you play for Kent, it seems like okay, well now I've got to be a mainstay in the side. And yeah, I've never really had that feeling of being fully content. Hopefully it comes, and like I say, that is the goal. But I've never really had that moment.
One of the that takes us on to one of the topics that we had on our agenda, Zach, which is the pressures of where you've got to, and one of the byproducts of your success is that you are in that bubble now where everyone's got an opinion, from everyone in this country, from Kent to England to overseas, to everybody's got an opinion about Zak Crawley. Now, when you're in that, and you're living it every day, and you've got your own aspirations to still get better and still play more games and more hundreds and whatever. How do you guys? Because we would never know this. How do you guys manage to keep yourself level and not get too high or too low on form, or obviously form's temporary, but how do you do you not look at any social media, or do you look at it and deal with it, or how do you guys deal with all this goldfish bowl that you're in?
It's a good question. It's tricky because that is without a doubt the hardest thing about playing international cricket. And the step ups, it's faster bowlers, the spinners are better, but it's the scrutiny and the pressure you feel from outside, which is the hardest thing, and how you deal with that pressure. And it's very similar to batting form, to be honest. It's when you're in good form, everything seems easy. And when I'm thinking well, and I don't read anything, I don't look at anything, I don't care about anyone's opinion. And especially when I first came into the side for Kent, I never used to read stuff. I didn't know that I was close to England. When I first started playing for England, everyone used to say to me, the media is the hardest thing. And, I'd go, it doesn't bother me because I don't care what people think. And I didn't care what people think. But then suddenly you spend enough time with bad articles being written about you, and it starts to eat away at you for sure. And I remember there's a couple of times in my career I've certainly let it affect me more, and read certain things and got carried away and looked too far ahead. But when I'm playing well, thinking well, I certainly don't read anything good or bad, and very much stay in my own bubble, and very much process driven, not results driven. And when I'm results driven, I tend to check what the people are saying. And I've still made that mistake. In the last year, I've read stuff, and you never fully get over that. Well, hopefully one day I will. But majority of the time now, I've been pretty good at that, and haven't read too much of what people have said, and kind of try to keep my circle pretty small. And not having social media certainly helped that, and it certainly helped me in some of my worst times to stay above board and not let it get me down too much.
It must be tough though, ultimately and this is kind of the Bazball Stokes thing, that certainly as a cricket fan, it doesn't matter about the results, it's about the attitude. But ultimately you're in a business where it is results orientated, right? It's all, Bazball's great when you're winning, but if you go and lose 15 tests in a row, including against India in an away Ashes series, Bazball won't be flavour of the month anymore, because how do you, at some point it must still catch up that ultimately, and is it then your teammates and the people that is it your close circle, your dad and your friends that help you through it, or is it more keeping it cricket based, and then when you step out of the changing room you try and keep no cricket and go and play golf, or do you draw the line between the two and keep it fresh just to cricket, if that makes sense?
Yeah, definitely I do. And when I'm playing well, I was thinking about this the other day actually, when I'm playing well I'm very busy, and I've got a lot on, and I'm doing stuff. And when I'm not playing so well, I'm in my room a lot more, especially when I'm abroad, in my hotel room, thinking about things a bit too much, overthinking. And that's where, that your teammates, your family are very good. You go out and see them, you go and play golf with them, you're making sure you're busy. And even if that's busy with training, and you're making sure I'm practicing more. And so basically just less time to let your mind sit and think, and because when you're doing that thinking, that overthinking, it's when some of the bad thoughts creep in, especially when obviously you're not going too well on the pitch. So definitely something I try and make a conscious effort to stay busy, and those tough times, like you say, yeah, it's at the end of the day, we got to win, and people have different opinions how to win. Some people think that not worrying about winning and focusing on the process helps you win, and which is kind of the state England's cricket's in at the moment, where we think that we don't focus on the result, and some people don't agree with that at all, and that's absolutely fine. And they think you got to fully focus on the winning. But everyone wants to win, and everyone wants to be liked. And I don't care who you are. There's a certain point where you want some respect for the team you are, the players you are, and you can say that you don't care what people think, but of course that might be true. But of course you'd rather them think you're a good player than not. So that's a given. So that always creeps in at certain points.
It's quite a and I don't know whether this is something you guys have thought about, but it's quite a big year in the Bazball era, right? It's a home India series and away Ashes series. It probably doesn't get any bigger than that in a 2 Test match series. Is that something that ever gets thought about, or is it just next week we've got a Test match at the Oval against India and then Edgbaston, and we play our cricket, and if we win, we win? Or is it ever thought about or discussed more on that level?
Not in the team, it's not discussed. I mean, obviously in my head, in an individual's head, it's just so exciting. So it's just the two biggest series you can play in India and Australia, Australia away especially. And obviously in my head, that's so exciting. And you look forward to that. And I feel that's the role of the coaches and the leaders in the group to kind of, that week is to bring you back to the level, to present, and focus on that week. Because I think it's impossible for me to sit here and say I'm not thinking about hopefully playing in the Ashes. And that's where good leadership comes in. And when we play the first Test of the summer, it is their job in my eyes to get us back to being focused on that week. And then because it's too exciting to sit here and say no, I don't think about playing India in the summer, and I don't think about playing the Ashes. Of course I do. That's what I've been thinking about my whole life, is playing in those series. So that's what I think.
In your overseas tours, Zak, from the outside, we hear a lot from the mainstream media and the guys that cover the cricket home and away. They've all got their own opinions about the cricket, and they're paid to give opinions and stuff. And so you probably all of you guys that play at that level are always aware that these guys are saying good things or bad things or whatever. One of the things I've always heard about you on TV and stuff is that you are the guy that we know, actually, which is quite laid back. Don't get too caught up in, oh, he said this about me and he said that I can't do this and so said I can do this. But one of the things that always seems to be quite very similar in comments that everyone makes is that you're very laid back and you don't get caught up in it, and that's helping you to get through the bleaker times and because you don't get too down and you can't see where the next run's coming from. Outwardly, I don't mean inwardly. Outwardly, you seem like you're always very same. Same. If you came and did an interview after a dark or 100, it would be the same kind of, the same kind of Zak. And I'm sure that is the case. I mean, I'm sure you're not different than the guy that we knew and grew up with, watching and admiring. So that's helping, I'm guessing. You just being your own self, and the guy that played junior cricket and Kent age group cricket, and for Kent, just the same guy, just in a different scenario.
Massively, absolutely. And outwardly, I always try and be that guy, and inwardly the same, obviously. But outwardly, especially because I owe it to my teammates to be level. On long tours, I find, and it's a tough game. So it helps me to, almost you fake it till you make it. That I'm not too bothered. Obviously, inside it obviously stings a lot, and you want to do well, and especially in the tough times. But outwardly, definitely, I try and stay extremely level, and I pride myself on that. I pride myself on my resilience. That's one of the things one of my greatest strengths, in my opinion. I've had a lot of failures, probably more than most, because of the nature of the way I play, and batting at the top of the order, I'm gonna fail a lot, but also when I come off, it's going to be really good, and that's kind of just the player I am, and so I've had to learn to deal with failure, and I've got better at that. I was very good at it actually when I was younger, and I was very fair on myself and never got too down. My dad was always big on me, never show your emotions like that, never, give off those bad vibes, because that actually comes out in you a bit more. And so I always practiced that in the nets. I wouldn't lose my head if I hit a bad shot. You just kind of keep your composure, keep that kind of poker face. And over years, I kind of trained that, and that's paid off for me. And I just think it's yeah. There was a time in my career I wasn't so fair on myself, and outwardly I'd still be fine, but inwardly I'd be too hard on myself, and it just made it hard to score runs the next time. So I think that when I'm fair on myself, don't get too down, you give yourself a much better chance of going out there and scoring runs the next time, and not getting into one of those ruts.
It must be from my perspective, a home series must be an easier time to deal mentally. And we spoke to Bilbo, and he said that it's nice to be home because there's no hotel time. When you're in a tough away series in Pakistan or India, probably mainly, there's a lot of you must stay a lot of time in your hotel. Whereas I guess in this country, especially with how McCullum and Stokes come across, I imagine that any time they're just like, if you want to go home for a couple of days to refresh and have mum's homemade spaghetti bolognese and forget about life, whereas you can't do that in India or Pakistan. And I imagine spending more time in your hotel room must sometimes make it mentally a lot tougher, right? Are there people in the England dressing room that you naturally hang out with or liaise with or chat to and help you through? Any best mates in the change room?
Yeah, I've got some really good mates in the change room who obviously help you through those times, I'm really close mates with Leachy, Brookie, Popey. I'm going to miss quite a few guys here because I'm good mates with a lot of them. And you're dead right. Being away on tour is certainly some of my lowest points have been away, because for all the reasons you named, it's just hard to get away from it. Also, some of my really highest highs have been away, because it's just such a cool life. You're away from on tour, great weather, you go and maybe get some runs, and the next day you're playing a great golf course you've never been to, or you're going to a beach in Australia, and you're like, wow, this is life. So there's some of the highs have been brilliant, but also, like you say, when it's bad, you're away from home. So you might be missing home a bit. You're not scoring very well, especially during COVID. It was extremely hard, and that was very early in my career. I just thought I just scored a Test 100, and thought I was well on my way to having good start to my career, and then COVID hit, and it made it very difficult for those away tours. So it wasn't an easy time, but they're all great lessons that you always learn from. I always think that those hard times always make you better. It's not the good times. You don't really know when someone asks you, what did you do well? It's very hard to say what you did well, or what were you doing right. But I can tell you loads of things I was doing wrong, and I just kind of try and not do those things again. And over time, that's the experience that you build up.
And it is people always touch on it when you go to the subcontinent. We got a lot of Indian viewers. Is stuff like the culture and the food and the weather, does that obviously help or it doesn't help you with being in your comfort zone? I assume you have to then try and find ways of dealing with that, or there's famous stories about Jack Russell or Shane Warne, I think, took his own food and stuff. Is that a thing, or do you take your own chef, or how do you deal with that side of things as well on a long tour, 5 test match series tour in India?
Yeah, I feel like I just try and get in the right headspace before I go to these places, and try and immerse myself in the culture, and whether I'm going to the Caribbean, which would be like a slightly different vibe, or to India, where it's a fantastic country but chaotic at times. But if you prepare yourself for those things and get yourself in the right mindset, then it's much easier. And I come to really enjoy spending time in those countries now, where I can immerse myself in the culture. Like I went to see the Dalai Lama in India and things like that. So and we walked up to this mountain, and you see things that you just don't see anywhere else. So no, absolutely. If you get yourself in the right mindset, then all these places are just great experiences.
And any any favourite play? I imagine that, and I've been to the West Indies, but I imagine that must be a great tour for different reasons, compared to an India or Pakistan. But is there a particular favourite or favourite ground on an overseas tour that you played at? Have you played in the Ashes? You have not away yet in Australia in a Test series, or
No, I have. I played three
you have,
tests
yeah.
in the Ashes Down Under. I played Boxing Day Test, which is incredible. Obviously, it was COVID, so it was only 2/3 full, but that was still 65,000
I imagine, yeah.
and very loud. Played at Newlands in my second Test match, which went down to the last 5 overs, which was incredible. Still,
Yeah, you
probably
took the
my
catch off
favorite.
Stokes, didn't you, at second slip and palmed up? Is
Yeah,
that was that Test match, wasn't it?
that was that Test match, and that was
Correct, yeah.
it's probably still my favorite ever game. And I only got 30 runs in the game, but yeah, no, that was incredible. Yeah, playing in all the countries, they're just all so different. The
Yeah.
grounds in New Zealand are beautiful but small. The grounds in Australia are enormous. West Indies, there's just like the party vibe. India is obviously, they can be enormous or just extremely loud. Playing in Pakistan, we're the first team to go there in 20 years. So no, all these great experiences. But they're all so different.
Is there anything is there one moment that stands out at any of these stadiums, or a weird or funny story, or something happened in the crowd, or as I said, I think I'd be like you. I think I would want to go out and explore the countries and see some of the sights and sounds. Or do you still get? I imagine in India you must get recognised a lot more, and they talk. Tendulkar always talked about having a body double so he could go out and drive his car and things like that. Is it mirrored for an English cricketer in these places, or I can imagine New Zealand? It's just another bloke on the street almost. So the pressure, it must be a very different pressure and reality being on tour out there.
No, definitely. It's that in India you are extremely famous, and even if they don't know who you are, they know you're something to do with the England cricket team. I remember I slipped over and broke my wrist. Well, I broke a bone in my wrist. It wasn't too bad, and I had to go for an MRI scan. It was on my birthday actually, and they had to shut down the hospital to let me in. Like everyone knowing, and so they just red carpet treatment. It was unbelievable, and I went straight into this MRI scanner, and you know what it's like in the MRI scanner. You're coming in and out, and as I was coming out, I could see there was just more and more people gathering, and there was probably 300 people watching me get an MRI scan in this hospital, and it was I just
It's
couldn't believe,
amazing.
and they thought it was just the best thing ever that a cricketer had come into their hospital and to get a scan. So yeah, you wouldn't get that in New Zealand or Australia for that matter, unless they're in Australia maybe just to abuse you. But
Yeah.
they're very different. Like in India and in Asia, they're very welcoming, and it's yeah, you cop a lot of abuse in those countries, which is good fun as well.
Talking of the or listening to a bit of that, Zach, about away games and Ashes coming up and stuff. We got lots and lots of questions in the chat. This might be from an Australian, but thanks Chaos Theory for your 2 or 3 questions. First of all, he's a big fan of yours, Zach, and the question he wants you to ask is, how are you going to win the Ashes back?
Oh, it's a good question. um, you know, those pitches in Australia have changed quite a bit, so the answer is very different to probably what it would have been 10 years ago. From playing in that series, a few years back, and then watching the series, the pitches are very bowler friendly now. Um, so it's probably quite similar to England, to be honest. Maybe a little bit more bounce, but I think it's just a strong seam attack, and then hopefully we bat well. But you never can look too far ahead on those things about tactics and things now. It all depends on the weather leading up to it, and having a variety in your squad to deal with the different pitches there. Like Adelaide and Sydney are so different from Perth and Brisbane. So you couldn't just have one formula. You have to have quite a big squad and quite a versatile tactics. I found last time we were there.
But we're probably in a look. We all have our opinions on like when James Anderson retired and obviously Broad retired. But from my perspective, actually, from what you think you need in Australia is pace. They've managed Jofra Archer coming back, and Mark Wood is hopefully going to be fit, and with like Atkinson coming through and Josh Tongue, it looks like the things that we've lacked. Anderson, Broad, Wokes, and Sam Curran previous tour. it looks like we might be in a much better position from a bowling perspective to take them on in a bit more of their own game.
Yeah, the stats certainly say that pace does help. I think it's almost half if you bowl over 85 miles an hour. I think it's something like 38 versus 76 average on terms of over or under 85 miles an hour. So obviously the stats do say that, and so it would help. And obviously all their guys bowl fast. Apart from Boland, who bowls 80 mile an hour, 82 mile an hour, and he's extremely skillful. So if you've got the skill, it doesn't really matter. And our guys certainly do have the skill. But no, certainly it must help, and especially on those big grounds, bouncy wickets. It's going to be harder facing 90 mile an hour than 80 mile an hour the majority of the time. But I feel like we've got a really good fast bowling unit now to deal with that.
Couple of more. Trying to catch up on the questions, Zach. In the chat, Jonesy, what is your favourite innings of all time?
My favourite innings of all time is my 100 in the Ashes. Obviously, like in 2023. That was just it was the biggest game I'd played in my life at that time, and so to perform, when I really really wanted to was so special. Funny enough, the best I've ever batted though is I got 77 in Sydney, and it was just one of those days. I woke up. Well, I was actually 20 it out overnight, and I went into bat that night and I felt really good. And then I woke up and I just had an unbelievable feeling of confidence. It was weird, like it comes over you a couple of times in your career, and you just get this feeling you're going to get runs, and I just felt it's such good touch. And it was middling everything, they're bowling bounces, and I'd pull them for 4, and they'd overpitch, and I'd drive it. And in the end, it was an accidental Yorker that banged me on the boot that got me out. But I remember being so annoyed because I just couldn't. I was in such the zone that I just couldn't imagine getting out. And I remember just walking off thinking that's the best I've ever batted by. And it's everyone looks at hundreds in cricket, but I'd love to replicate that innings.
You're sort of always going to be remembered from that cult hero sort of moment, the first ball of the last home Ashes. What? Obviously, it's really hard to ask the question, but what was going through your mind as you're going out to bat? Was it, geez, this looks the weather is perfect. Cummings is deep points out. That's a bit weird. Is anything going through your mind, or was it just that's up there? I'm going to hit it, because it's often shown on the tellies, isn't it? And it's such an iconic moment that set the tone for that series. But was anything actually going through your head, or did you then get off the pitch at the end of the day and think, oh Jesus, I didn't realise how big a moment that was? Or because I imagine at the time it must be adrenaline pumping and everything, and you probably don't realise until you sit back at the end of the Test match and go, actually, that was pretty cool.
That was certainly the case. I didn't think anything, I genuinely didn't think much of it at the time. And then afterwards, I saw a couple of bits and I thought, oh, actually, it's pretty cool. But at the time, it was just I was just an overpitch ball which I hit for 4, and I was certainly looking for it a little bit. And I was looking to put one away early, and I was certainly, if it was up, I was going to try and put my hands for it. It was quite funny actually. Labuschagne was at cover and he was chirping me. He was going, "Oh, big come on, lads, big drive." And I was thinking in my head, yeah, little do you know, I am going to have a big drive in this. And then obviously they all went silent after I smacked it. But it was one of those things. I kind of found it in the nets the day before, where I was just in this mindset, all right, just smack it, and I was reacting afterwards. So I was in that mindset to smack it, and the whole innings, that was not just the first ball, and then I'd try and block it after if it wasn't there. And I kind of had that mindset the whole of the Ashes really, and it was quite clear. Just thought process was, I'm going to look to hit a 4, and if it's not there, I'm going to block it. And that was the same with the first ball really. And it was a cool moment looking back on it.
Would you have played against Marnus when he was in the Kent League at Sandwich? Would you have come up against him there?
Do you know what? I didn't play against him for the Vine. I think I still had to play a school game, but I played against him for school, and he was playing. I don't know who. I went to Tunbridge, and we used to play a Kent League 11 or something, and he played for them.
Yeah.
Or it might have been MCC. I don't know if he would have been able to play for MCC. But there was a team he played for, and he came and played at our school, and I remember bowling him. But he obviously wasn't Marnus Labuschagne back then. He was, he was just the gun overseas Aussie, and I do remember how much he used to practice. I played a game at Sandwich, and he wasn't playing, but he was in the nets, and he was in the nets all day. And I was thinking, geez, he works hard. And then a couple of years later, he's number one batter in the world. So there's probably a lesson in there somewhere.
While we're on 7x1, we've got Tim Redsell on YouTube watching, who's scorer, MCC scorer. You'd come across Tim. So thanks for watching, Tim. He said, "What's your favourite innings for the 7x Vine?" And I was on the receiving end of one of your highest Kent League scores at Tenston. We know Sam Weller really well, and we actually mentioned in our group chat, and he said it's the biggest six he's ever been hit for over the trees and pond at Tenston. And I said we would bring it up. So yeah, but any other innings for the Vine or in your Kent League career stand out for you?
Do you know what? Carl will tell you, my record for the Vine was atrocious. It was so bad. I got a couple of really good knocks.
It wasn't at Tenston.
It wasn't at I had a really good knock against you guys at Tenston, and I remember I got the one I really liked was I got an 80-odd at Beckenham on a really average wicket, and I'm not sure what we ended up with, maybe 220, and we won the game. But I remember I batted really nicely that day. And I got a couple more hundreds here or there, but I really didn't go very well at all in club cricket. And in the end, I was trying too hard, and it was a good lesson in that because I didn't feel any pressure when I was playing for the twos in the week because I always felt like I'm just going to show people how good I am. But then when I went to the Vine on the Saturday, I was a pro at that point, 17, 18, and people were talking to me that I could play for Kent, and I put so much pressure on myself playing for the Vine, and really just couldn't get a run. And it was actually a really good lesson for me. It's like the harder you try in this game, the worse it gets. No matter what level you play, cricket's not a game like rugby or football where you can run around a bit more and put a big tackle in or something. It's a game where you've got to relax and let your skill come out once you've done the practice. And yeah, it was a good lesson in that. Although I still wish I'd have done better for the Vine.
It's interesting, isn't it? And it's why people, when like Darren Stevens was doing so well for Kent, because they used to say that everyone practices at 85, 90 mile an hour on the bowling machine all winter, and then when someone turns up nibbling it around at 65 mile an hour, you don't know what to do. Is that what you find with league cricket? Although it's by far not a comparable level, it's still testing because it's different, and it's a different, guys bowling with a Duke's ball on not as great wickets. It's still a really big test for you.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some really good players in league cricket who, for whatever reason didn't get picked up or didn't want to play pro cricket because they enjoyed what they were. But there's guys who could have easily played pro cricket, twos cricket, whatever it was, and on pitches were a little bit dicey. It's going to be a challenge, and like you say, it was very different from the practice I've been doing. All my practice was based around playing for England. Like I said, that was my massive goal, and I would be practicing on the Merlin against big spin, quick spin, and I'd be on the bowling machine doing bounces and back foot stuff, 90 mile an hour on the machine, and because that's what I wanted. I wanted to play international cricket, and then I'd come and play the Vine on the weekend, and I've even felt that playing county, like they're very different games from the practice I was doing, and at times I probably needed to be a bit more specific.
Got some more questions in the chat, Zach. The Devies, how did you like to? What did you think of today's game, England Australia? Yesterday's game.
Yeah, it was obviously a great game of cricket. Obviously a very flat wicket, and I was watching it thinking 350 is about par. At this, it just looked like one of those wickets. But then again, and when we got 350, I was thinking, it's so hard to chase that under the pressure of a in a big tournament like that against the old enemy. So I did fancy us at halfway, but I spoke to a couple of the guys today actually, and watched it myself. And the Jew obviously made it just a bit more one-sided in those last 10 overs. When the game's kind of in the balance, it looked like it skidded on even more. So obviously a great game of cricket. Josh Inglis, who I know very well, actually I played with him for the London Spirit and for the Perth Scorchers, is an unbelievable player, very underrated player, and played an incredible knock. So you got to give credit where credit's due. Sometimes there's not a lot more we could have done, especially with the bat.
Can you just explain for the people like myself and even Carl how much the Jew factor does make a difference? Because I think people talk about it on telly and it's the toss, win the toss in India in the day-nighter, you win the match. But how much does it actually affect the game? Does the pitch change? Does it just make the ball harder to grip? What actually, having played in some day-night cricket, I imagine in the franchise stuff, how much does it actually affect the game?
It affects the game a lot, and sometimes it depends what ground you're at, but sometimes it can be better for the bowling side, who are bowling second. It can sometimes make the ball nip and swing, but 90% of the time it'll be better for the batting side. And the ball just skids on, doesn't really nip. But I don't know why, just the wetness on the surface makes the ball just skid on nicely, like you're batting indoors. And also another thing which people don't take into account is it makes the outfield quicker. You hit the ball slightly in the air, it skids on, bang, four, and you can't get near it in the field. I remember fielding in Dew is extremely hard. So those two factors together, probably in a 50-over game, that's probably the Dew only came in for those last 10 overs, but it probably accounts for 20 runs in those 10 overs, which was more than enough. The difference in the end, maybe even more than that.
Colin Mehigan in the chat, Zach, has asked, what is your favourite ground you've played at in the world?
Good question.
The Vine.
No, the Vine. The Vine's top three. I'm gonna go Newlands. That's the one that's popped into my head right now. I mean, there's some in Australia which I've loved. Some really pretty ones in New Zealand and India, some huge ones. But Newlands in South Africa, just love that Test match with Table Mountain in the background, 10,000 English people there. And obviously we won that game, so I've got great memories of that ground, and it was just a beautiful setting. So I'm going to go with Newlands.
In contrast to that, are there any grounds that you feel like you should like, but just don't really enjoy going to, or have always done badly at, or is it any that you love everyone you feel lucky to go to anywhere, sort of thing?
Trent Bridge is I just hate that place, and weirdly, because every time ever, and I don't get me wrong, I love the ground, it's a beautiful ground, but every time I go there, people go, "What a beautiful place to bat! It's the best place to bat in England," and I just stink it up there. I've got and everyone outfield's rapid, the pitch is beautiful, and maybe again back to what I said, maybe I put too much pressure on myself to score runs, but it doesn't feel like that. I just feel like it's just one of those grounds for me. So yeah, Trent Bridge.
I don't want to
get in there this summer. No, sorry.
I was going to say I don't want to jinx the chat, but looking at the one of the things we got on our agenda, Zach, is this year's games, and your next game is at Trent Bridge against Zimbabwe.
Yeah, a nice chance to turn it around.
Yeah, a great chance in May to make it somewhere that you all of a sudden like playing at and like scoring runs at.
Absolutely. Well, it used to be Old Trafford. Obviously, played at the Ashes there last in 2023, and my favourite knock ever. So that turned Old Trafford around for me, and I've got runs a couple of times there since. So this is the year for Trent Bridge.
Adi Kumar in the chat, Zach, asks you for your Champions Trophy winners prediction. Who do you think's going to win?
It's a good question. Obviously, I think England are going to win, but then now I've got the political answer out of the way. I think India are a good chance. They just look so good. I watched them again today, and I just love the way their batters play. Huge fans of them, and obviously their spin attack and their seamers in those conditions. The only thing I'll say is, like I said with the Dew, is going to play a huge part, and anyone can beat anyone if you get on the right side of the toss. If the final's a day-nighter, then I'd back the side batting second. I genuinely think it is that much of an advantage. But obviously I'm going to say the obvious answer, and India are a fantastic team. But then I still think we've got a great chance. If we get through, then we can beat anyone. That's the way we play.
I do find it disappointing still, and this is me going to stick my neck out and annoy a few people probably, but I find it disappointing that politics is still playing a big part in international sport, and the fact that India, when Pakistan are host nation, India can go and play all their games in a completely different pitch. Pakistan, it's a bit flatter, a bit more seam based, and then they're in Dubai and it's spinner friendly. So I think that must skew the Indian team to be favourites, like, because even Pakistan as host, I think if India make the final's in Dubai or in the UAE. But if it's not, then it's in Pakistan. It seems very weird, but I think South Africa have a reasonable chance in this tournament as well. From what I know, that then it comes down to where they potentially play India in the semi or the final. But they've got, I know they have the famous tag that they choke and everything like that, which will cheer the South African viewers up. Sorry for that, but I think they're a highly underrated team, South Africa. I think they've got a lot of big match winners in that outfit.
Yeah, definitely. I played with a few of them recently in the SA20, and they've got some unbelievably good players and players who are in form. So they are dangerous. It's going to be a tough game for us, that, and Afghanistan will be a tough game for us. I think we're definitely in the harder group. So it's going to be, if we, like I say, if we can win those two games, which it looks like we're going to need to now, then that puts us in a pretty good place to go and win it.
Let's assume that we do win those two games, just for the purpose of this question. But all likelihood is that we go to Dubai to play India in the semi-final, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, which would be a tough game.
It's not gonna suit us, I wouldn't think. But, we'll get back onto the agenda, Zach. We'll go back to the questions in a little while. And thanks so much for. Can't keep up with the questions. There's so many, so I really appreciate you putting your questions on there. And sorry if I've missed you on there. Had one from John Bowden, Zach, for you, obviously. JB, yeah, he's been on to say, who's your favourite Vine player that you open the batting with?
Poor, that's a tough one. I opened with Everett Becker once. That was good fun. Yeah. No, I'm joking, JB. It's you, mate.
We'll snip that out for Everett as well. I'm sure he'll be delighted to have that.
Yeah. You mentioned franchise cricket, Zach, and it would be remiss of us not to mention franchise cricket in the current news. You've been part of the London Spirit for a few years, and obviously amazing to be a part of that franchise and play at Lords and get into the 100. What do you make of the 100? You're a fan?
I'm a huge fan. Yeah, huge fan of the 100. So good for our game. Great, it's fun to play in, but I think it's such a good idea for, I see a lot more involvement from younger generations coming to the games, and I just think it's going to be really good for our country's cricket.
With the recent sell-off of the 49% and in some cases 100%, it's obviously put a lot of money back into the English game, and we've touched on it and joked around, club cricket and pathway cricket that you played in. Back to a serious question: is your own county as a non-host, Kent, stand to receive a windfall of 20 to 25 million quid from the 100 ball franchise sale, which will be groundbreaking for Kent? I'm sure it'll be life-changing for them at the moment. We hear a lot about the second division counties or the smaller counties struggling financially to bring in overseas players and compete with the Surreys and the Lancashires and test venues. Obviously, good news for Kent. What do you think? Will it make as big a difference as I think, as we think, the money coming down and helping with cricket to make sure cricket's sustained in Kent for the next few years?
Yeah, I think it has to, doesn't it? I mean, that's such a large amount of money to be coming in, and hopefully everyone can work together and spend it wisely and put it in the right areas. What those areas are, it's not for me to say. I wouldn't have enough knowledge on it that some of the people. So, but it's got to be great, that amount of money coming in, and hopefully that comes to fruition, and all the counties, to be honest, and all those, for want of a better word, lesser non-test playing grounds that don't host 100 competitions, and it's good that all of them are getting these windfalls, like I say, hopefully that encourages people to play cricket all over the country, and especially, obviously, I'm from Kent, so and I hope that for Kent more than most.
And you've played for the Spirit, obviously, for a few years. You've played in the 100. I've been to the 100 as a fan. I'm sure that Chris has been to watch the 100. The standard is off the charts, I think. But I've been to watch the standard of the matches is incredible. 500 million plus was raised for the English game the other day, or in the last few weeks. 50 million of that is guaranteed to be put into grassroots cricket and to help the women's game. And I was going to quickly come on to that because you mentioned it a minute ago. The 100 ball, when it set out 3 or 4 years ago, that the whole objective of that plan was to get more people involved, more non-cricketers involved in the game, kids, and get more women to come to matches. And as someone that's played in the matches, you've seen that, right? You've seen that the Lords is full, and there's women and families and kids coming and enjoying it and getting involved in cricket, and that's the main aim of it, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I'm not just saying this. I've noticed it massively. A lot more young people coming in, a lot more young girls, and older girls who can take up cricket at any age. And I think it's just fantastic for the sport that there's that excitement around it, and people want to come, and it's a good environment around the games. A lot more fun environment than maybe even the Blast, which I love the Blast, huge fan of the Blast as well. But they do it well, obviously, and that's, you got to make cricket look fun. It's a long game, and that you got to have all the equipment and that. So they have to do a job of making it look like, well, why do I want to play cricket over football? Or why do I want to play cricket over any other sport? And I think they're doing a great job of that, and I think that can only snowball and get better from there, and they can keep making it look like it's a great sport that we all know it is. But some people in the country don't quite know that, and they don't have the love for it that we do, and I'm hoping that's going to be the biggest effect of the 100.
I think those criteria have been met from the games that I've been to. The grounds are full, they're sellout, and yes, we're in a lucky situation to be in London, and have the London Spirit and the Invincibles in London who get big crowds. But the crowds in general are big. You play with a lot of the boys that play in the other franchises. Is it popular, Zach, amongst the boys that they all enjoy playing for the Superchargers, and do they enjoy the August tournament?
Everyone loves the 100. Yeah, everyone I spoke to, you get the chance to gun overseas players as well. Come over, you spend some time with them who you'd never see before, and pick their brains and just spend time and going out for dinner with some of these Aussie legends, West Indian guys, and all loads of people. And so it's just an awesome thing to play in, like you say, in front of full crowds, and the standard's high, and you get the chance to show off your skills on the biggest stage, sometimes on BBC, and in front of big audiences there, and on Sky. So it's what everyone dreams of, playing in games like that.
You might get a chance this year to play a little bit, looking at the dates, because the Test series is June and July. So hopefully this year you get a chance to play a few more games. And obviously, I'm sure as a cricket fanatic like me and Chris, you'll be, I can't wait to go to the 100 this year. And the Spirit have had a couple of marquee signings. Obviously, JL is going to be the coach, which is amazing for the Spirit. I'm guessing that you're looking forward to working with Justin Langer as a coach, and Kane Williamson has signed as a player, which is one of the world's greatest players, obviously.
No, absolutely, and I'm a huge fan of Kane's, and be unbelievable to spend some time with him, pick his brains about a few things. But yeah, I know obviously I broke my finger last year and missed the whole 100, so I'm absolutely raring to go for it this year. And I think there's a chance that we only miss one game, maybe even 0 games, if the last test against India finishes, within before the 5th day. So if it's the day after that game, then I'm going to play. I want to play every game this year. I can't wait.
It's also a good chance if you Just touching on Kane Williamson, there's a good chance you might spend some time watching him bat in the county championship at second slip or first slip, where he might be stood, because you'll be coming up against him for Middlesex, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, hopefully not for too long. I've seen him bat enough in my career, so maybe just a nice 20 or something, just to see a couple of nice shots and then catch him at second. But yeah, it's great that people like that are coming to play county cricket.
One thing that I think cricketers, me and Chris are just normal club cricketers, but I'm sure people like us all over the world want to know. We're just flippantly talking about Kane Williamson, who's one of the greatest players of all time. What's it like for you? I know you, and you're a cricket enthusiast and a lover of the game. What's it like to, have a chat with Kane Williamson on the opposite side in Test matches, and then talk off the field? What's it like to almost bump into your heroes? I mean, that's effectively what it is, I guess. And you got India coming up, and you might play against Virat, and people like that. Maybe Zak's.
We lost Zak.
We might have lost Zak for a minute. He might have. His phone might have died or something. So
yeah, you probably don't want to redirect that question at me, Carl, because I've never come up against Virat Kohli. I'd like to, as Zak said, you've always got to have aspirations of playing Test cricket, but I think that ship might have sailed for me. But really interesting listening to talk about. You see club cricketers sometimes or professionals play, and they don't always love coming and playing club cricket, but it's really good hearing Zak from a cricket fan that he just wants to play as much cricket as he can, and it's not going to be playing for England yesterday. I don't want to go and play tomorrow if they can. It's if there's a game of cricket and I'm going to get 100, I want to go and do it. And it's just refreshing to. I know Zak's back and he's heard me say that, but it's really nice from someone who's experienced sometimes at club cricket pros and don't necessarily want to come and play with your Joe Blogs. It's nice to see that a lot of the guys actually just love playing cricket and they want to play whenever they can.
It's going to be sort of illuminating for people to listen to, because you read a lot of stuff in the mainstream media, and you hear a lot of stuff on the TV and bigger and better podcasts than this will discuss cricket until the cows come home. But in the last question before Zak dropped out, we were just saying about playing with your heroes and stuff. And before that, to hear someone like Zak, who's playing for England, like his England opener, like just to hear someone say, if the game's over in 4 days, I'm wherever we are playing that game, I'm going to play for the Spirit the next day, because I'm looking forward to playing that tournament. Whereas you would hear a lot of other stuff, wouldn't you, in lots of different forums about, he's not going to play. He's earning a fortune. What do you want to go and play for? 20 over game on a Thursday night for? But actually, when you speak to the guys and listen to them, they're cricketers. And why wouldn't you want to go and play at Lords with a 30,000 sellout against? It's probably going to be the Invincibles, isn't it? The first game, so it's a local derby. It's all the Surrey boys playing, and I'm sure Zak's got plenty of those lads, in the DMs about the Spirit and the Invincibles, the same as Surrey against Kent. So it's like you said, Chris. It's so great to hear. I probably knew that Zak would say that anyway, but it's great for people to hear that actually people at the top of the game, opening the batting in Test matches, are looking forward to, after one series is finished. I mean, we're assuming that might be a grueling series, and 5 Test matches, you might be tired and you might have a different outlook, Zak, at the end of the series if you're worn out. But at this stage of the year, looking forward to how much hype there is around the 100, and the money's in there, and the interest is at sky high. Currently, sky high. The interest is in that tournament, and coupled with the other stuff that's going on this summer for you with the Test series against Zimbabwe and India, and then the Ashes. It's an unbelievable time for a cricketer, isn't it, to be alive?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry about dropping out there. I'm back. But no, it's an incredible time. And, it's a bit like what I was saying earlier about how the form is, your mental state's a bit like your form, where you drop in and out. And when I'm playing well, I play like I'm a kid, and I play with that freedom. And and I play like I'm playing in the backyard and garden when I was, just 6 years, 7 years old. And I think like, well, what would a kid do? He'd play every day of the year. And and that's what, and when I'm sitting here now, I'm thinking, why wouldn't I? It's a short career. It's, I want to play as much as I possibly can. And you're playing in front of thousands of people, some of them who are fans of yours. That's why you get out of bed early in the morning to go and hit some balls. It's just so you can put your best foot forward and show people what all the work was for. So no, absolutely, I love the game. I always want to play as much as possible. And yeah, sorry, going back to your previous question, because a good question about me and your heroes. My favourite ever memory, just quickly on that, is getting sledged by Virat Kohli. It was just the best moment of my career. Walking out to bat, I didn't even know he knew my name, and he thought it'd be a good idea to sledge me. So he must have known my name, and it was, yeah, I just thought it was so cool. So that was, yeah, talking about you had to meet him and talk about batting after, but I thought getting sledged by him was just it was not far off my favourite moment of my career.
Just touching on, we mentioned it earlier, Zach, about where your career wants to go. Obviously, playing the 100 is great from a love the game, but do you see it as a opportunity to showcase your white ball skills a bit and to franchise stuff? You go and whack it in the 100 for 6 games. There's South Africa, there's Dubai, there's the IPL potentially. That's obviously the glitz and the. But do you also see it as an opportunity that Baz McCullum or Josh Butler's going to be watching and go, "Cool, geez, Zach whacked it last night. Maybe we can have him in the discussion for the next one day series." Do you think about that, or is it just going to go and have some fun? And I'd love to get picked wherever I can, but does that ever come into your thinking at all? Or?
No, absolutely it does. I want to play in all forms. And fun enough though, when I think about that too much, that gets you in trouble.
Yeah.
You start getting both focused on the results, and it's certainly, like I said, I wouldn't lie to you. It's a bit like what I said earlier about the Ashes. It's in the back of my mind. But when that becomes too much, then that's when you lose track of how do I get in those teams, and I get in those teams by being really present and scoring runs, in the game you're playing in, and not getting too far ahead, and sticking to the process. So I found, certainly when I've been in teams as well, it's like, when you're fearing you're gonna get dropped, and you start thinking about your place rather than, well, why not just go and play? That's a much better mindset to get in. So yeah, it's in the back of my mind. I want to play for England in all forms, and play T20 cricket around the world. But I know full well, and that's in the front of my mind is, well, I do that by practicing hard and being very present, and not getting too far ahead of yourself. So it's a kind of a fine balance.
And have you got any advice? It's really interesting hearing you say stuff like that, because Carla will be able to appreciate as well. It's that Test cricket, club cricket. We've all sat there going out to bat. I've not got a run for 3 weeks. Carl's picking the team next week. I might not. I might be in the twos. But we've got a lot of juniors who are subscribing to our channel and dads who coach their son's team. Do you have any advice for an under 10 or an under 12 or an under 15 who struggles with that and is really worried about his place, or geez, I've got county trials next week, I'm not going to get picked? Do you have any advice, having been through it and listening to you talk now, that might just help that the next 13-year-old Zak Crawley get through those worries?
Yeah, it's a good one. Like, I have got advice because I've been through it, but you can only really, like, kids will listen to what I'm about to say and probably go like, "Oh, that's easy to say," but it's and you can only really learn this lesson from experiencing it. But I'll say it anyway, because the joy I get from batting is, I can have a net in Canterbury with no one watching, and I'll like have a shower after it, and I'll be so delighted with how I've hit the ball, and it'll be like, and that's such a good feeling in cricket, and it's the same as scoring runs in the game. I get that much enjoyment out of it, and what this is leading to is basically all my lowest points in my career, funny enough, have been playing for England. All my lowest points, and that's been worrying about my place and worrying about, um, how am I going to stay in the side? How many people are watching me? Loads of people have seen me get ducked there. They think I'm rubbish, and all my lowest points have been playing for England. My highest points have been playing for England as well, but scoring runs for England, Kent, the Vine, my club, whoever, that it all feels the same to me. Yeah, in it for England, I'm going to get a lot more people watching it and saying how good a player I am. But all of that's nonsense, really, when you cut it down to it. It's all about how you feel about yourself. And like I say, I feel just as good scoring runs for the Vine as I do for Kent, as I do for England. And And it's getting back to that. It's like, well, why do I play the game? I play the game because I enjoy it. I don't play the game um, so I can get some kudos I get some praise of some guy I know, or I can show off to my mates that I'm in this team. I play the game because I enjoy it, and when I get away from that and I start worrying about, am I going to get in that team? Am I going to get in this team? Then that's when the game becomes unenjoyable. And I've had some of my like really low moments worrying about getting in teams. So I'd say just why do I play the game? I play the game because I love the sound and the feeling of the ball hitting my bat, and it's as simple as that really. And all the rest of it you get carried away with, and yeah, that's what I think.
And do you think that once you finish playing cricket, and this is an impossible thing because you see so many guys who finish at Kent or finish their pro careers, and obviously you've had a much better career than most, but do you think that when time calls it a day, when you're 35, say, let's for an example, do you think you would be turning out on a Saturday afternoon, or when you have kids, you'll be on the village green playing with your lad, or do you think that when cricket's done at professional level, that'll be it? Would you like to still keep playing, or?
Do you know, it's an impossible question, like you say, but
And
if
I
if
appreciate
I
you're still young and you're not quite
yeah,
getting to that time yet. I didn't mean it to
but
be
if I had to answer
but
that question now, I'd
yeah,
say yes. I'd say yeah.
yeah.
I'd still play, and I'd go and play. Probably quite a low standard for like in my village or something. It wouldn't necessarily be as high as the Vine, because that actually requires quite a bit of practice, and it's this decent standard. It wouldn't be as enjoyable if my eyes had gone. But if I'm sitting here now and being honest, I'd say yeah, I would still play. I love the game, and what else am I going to do on a Saturday?
So, yeah, it's just nice that you hear people say that because I think, as Carl alluded to, you get a lot of stories where, and it's a shame because ultimately there's so many, even at Kent, right, that we've played with at the Vine, who I could probably name 3 or 4 guys I know now that were contracted, got let go, and then they don't play again after they're 25, 26. And it's just a shame because they've obviously forgotten the reason we all started playing in the first place was because we actually quite enjoy turning up and Cole telling me how bad I am and then having a pint afterwards after a win, singing the team song, and you look forward to the next week. And I think people forget that. I think people, when it's spit the Baz McCullum, I think people associate enjoyment with success too much, whereas actually you enjoy it regardless. It doesn't. If I get 0 or 100, I still quite enjoy my day out. Whereas too many people say I got 3 ducks in the last 3 weeks. I hate cricket. How many times have you heard people say that? Whereas actually we got into it because we love it, not just because we like doing well.
And if you and so right, and if you commit to that mindset, you'll start playing better. As simple as that.
Yeah.
And so then it kind of snowballs from there. But the moment you start, taking yourself too seriously, or taking, you got to take it seriously in terms of your practice and that. But you got to remember why you play the game. And no one plays the game to get credit off other people. You play the game because it's fun and you're with your mates. And it doesn't matter what level you play. That has always been me at my best.
That's brilliant advice, Zach. We've got a couple of questions for you in the chat, or a couple of comments actually. Harry Jones, Zach, you're one of my favourite players. I absolutely love watching you bat. Thanks very much, Harry, for joining in. And we had one. I'm just going to scroll back from Raj. You mentioned pace, Zach. Do you think that's the only reason for success in the Ashes, or will we need some other bowling attributes?
No, you need skill, and luckily our fast bowlers are skillful, so it's kind of a double whammy, which is what you want. But pace without skill is, against the best batters in the world, which some of those Aussie guys are, it's not going to be very effective. You need to move the ball sideways, no matter what type of cricket you play or what standard you play. If you bowl straight, you're going to get whacked. So no, it always comes down to skill. But I think what we're doing at England at the moment is, if you've got skill and pace, then that's going to be a little bit harder if you've got less time to think. So I think sometimes those guys like the Mark Woods and the Joffres get thrown into the basket of not very skillful, just quick. And I can assure you from facing them in the nets that they've got plenty of skill as well as the pace. So that's always the most important thing.
Ultimately, Raj, I think's comment, we go on about the bowling and Ashes series. It all comes down to, and I don't mean to put any pressure on you, Zach, but we've not done well in Australia because no one's scored any runs. And the times we've been successful, Alistair Cook scored 700 and loads, Peterson, Collingwood, big 100, Ian Bell getting hundreds, Strauss got hundreds in that 10-11 series. So ultimately, if you bowl sides out for a 200 because your bowlers are good, that's great. But if you're getting bowled out for 150 yourself, then you're still going to lose a test series. So I think the bowling will get a lot of the talk, but ultimately Joe Root, who's arguably the best batsman of all time, I'm going to annoy some more of our followers tonight, but he's going to be in that bracket for sure. He's probably, everyone says Darren Lehmann tweeted something before Christmas that he can't be considered the great before he gets 100 in Australia. So there's probably a few guys who will be out there who know that weight of runs in any test series, but especially down under, is probably what the series is going to come down to, I think, as much as the bowling.
Yeah, of course. It's like any game of cricket. Everyone, all sides need to turn up. And the spin's going to have a big role to play as well. Not putting any pressure on them, but everyone to win in Australia or anywhere away from home, you have to play really well as a whole unit. And so yeah, that's a given, and hopefully I can get a few of those runs if I'm playing.
Couple of we really grateful, Zach, for your time. We try and keep it to somewhere near an hour, so we've got a couple of questions to start to wrap it up with. First one from me is, we started off by asking or mentioning that playing for England might be the pinnacle of anyone's career. From someone that has done it, can you tell all the viewers that it's the best thing ever? Is it the best thing that ever happened to you to play for England and make your debut and be in the team and score hundreds? Is it the best thing ever?
Yeah, massively. Like I said, it was my goal from a young age, and to stand there and sing the national anthem for my first game and every game after that. I get goosebumps every time I play for England, and it's gone so quickly. And I never thought I'd play 50 games. So I'm grateful for every opportunity I get to play for my country. A very proud Englishman, and yeah, it's just such a great thing to be considered in the best 11 and that your country can produce. And I hope I can play 50 more or however many more, because it's my favorite thing to do.
We asked go on, Chris.
Just on the side note, as a bit of a joke, when is it a thing that you always do? I think it started with Stuart Broad, but you next to Duckett, is that done on purpose for the cameras, the height difference? Is that often comes across as, I think it started with Stuart Broad as well with the height, but often I know you open the batting, but I'm sure a few times we panned across and you only see the top of Duckett's head next to. Is that?
Yeah.
I assume that's done on purpose as a bit of a joke, is it?
That is done on purpose. Yeah, he does. Ducky's the one who proposes it, which is funny, to be fair to him. So we haven't done it the last couple of times, so we're gonna have to bring that back.
Yeah, well, next time we're going to be watching. The whole podcast following will be watching and laughing along when they see it at Trent Bridge just before you get your first 100 there in May.
Yes, I love that.
What does the next few weeks and months hold, Zach? Are you in training? Is it part of the plan to start the season off with Kent? Are you going to play county championship to start the season?
Yeah, I'm down in Canterbury at the moment. I'm going to train this week, and yeah, I'm going to train all the way up into the season. Play the first few games. I have to speak to my boss at England to see how many games I'll play. But like I said, I'll definitely play the start of the season, and then we'll see how it goes leading into those test matches. They usually ask us to miss one or two to keep it fresh, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Kent. We got a new head coach, and so it feels like it's going to be the start of a new era here. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
And looking forward to the season with Kent, and plenty of positivity around, with, as you say, with Adam Hollyoak coming in as the new coach. And disappointing last year to get relegated, but a great chance to bounce back in Div 2, albeit there's some good sides in there, but a great chance for Kent this year, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like we've got loads of talent, and yeah, it was a shame last year, and shame to see Wolsey go. Love Wolsey, and he was great for me in my career. It was very helpful, but yeah, very exciting to have Adam coming in now, and it feels like a fresh start and a good chance for us to bounce back strong. And like I say, we've got some good talent, so I feel like we can really compete this year, try and get back up to Div 1 and white ball wise as well. You know, we've made a couple of good signings, so definitely you just want to win games, don't you? Like we said at the start, you know, it does come down to winning. That's the best feeling in cricket.
Chris, any final questions from you?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just it's just been really nice to have. I'm gonna throw a word out there, Zach, which you probably fall into, which sometimes you just strike me a bit like myself, and probably got just a bit of a badger, really, like in a good way. Like you just love cricket, and it's just really nice for the kids listening, and that you just love the game of cricket, and it's I never think it's a bad thing to be called that, and it's it's just really nice to have. We've had Sam Billings and Sam Northeast on previous pods, and they kind of come across similar, really. And it's just it's good to know that there are people out there like that, because sometimes the media and people on Twitter talk rubbish, say that these guys aren't, and ultimately it's you've come from the same place as we all have, and it's really nice to see that you love the game of cricket, and it doesn't really matter if it's the village green or if it's a ladies' game or a Colts game or a Test match. It's cricket in the day, isn't it?
Absolutely, and yeah, don't listen to everything you read. I don't know a single good player, or I don't know a single player I've played with who's not a massive badger. You know, like top player, England player, a foreign player. Every single person you see on the TV is a humongous badger, and I think you have to be. I think the game demands that of you. It's such a hard game that if you don't love it, then it's going to be a tricky ride. So I think everyone loves it. And rightly so, it's a great game.
A couple of things that the viewers won't watch, or you won't find on Crick Info or about Zak, and one of the reasons why he's a grounded individual is because his debut in senior cricket, and he'll laugh when I start the story off. His debut, anybody that plays their debut in senior cricket away to Hartley. Can't ever grumble about getting sledged by Virat Kohli or anyone, because the amount of abuse that I can't remember how old you were, Zach, but it's probably 14 or 15 playing in the first team at Sevenoaks away to Hartley, who won everything for that period. And he came into bat. I don't know what number you batted at, 4 or 5 probably. Came into bat. They ran him out. He wasn't going for a run. He just played a ball to square leg and was just tapping the wicket down. One of the I can't remember which one it was, walked in from square leg and took the bails off and told him to clear off on his way. 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid. So his grounding in the game was always going to be a good one. If you can survive away to Hartley, you can survive anything, I'm sure. But Zak, absolute pleasure to have you on, matey. Really, really grateful for you giving up your time. We don't get to talk to our heroes in the game and people that legends of the game that open the batting in Test cricket. So it's really great for people to hear. We've had more questions than we've ever had on this. So obviously a lot of interest around it. We'd like to wish you an exceptionally successful 2025. We look forward to seeing you. I'm sure Alf will make me bring him down to Canterbury to see you in the championship, and we'll see you at Lords hopefully for the 100. So have a great season. All the best to your family and mum and dad. And thanks again for coming on.
No, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks, guys, and best of luck with this.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, Zak.
Cheers,
Cheers, Chris.
See you guys.
See you all. Thanks for joining, everyone. Bye-bye.